Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be looking at how do you find the measures of complementary, supplementary, vertical, and adjacent angles, similar to these problems that you see up on the screen here. Just a reminder, this is the speedrun version where we go through it pretty quickly. If you'd like the normal version of the lesson, I will link that in the description below. All right, your Ricasso Recap starts now. In 30 seconds or less, here's what you need to know before you start this lesson. Firstly, you should already be familiar with complementary, supplementary, vertical, adjacent, and congruent angles. Okay, you should be able to look at a diagram, a figure, a drawing, and say, okay, those are vertical angles, those are adjacent angles, so on and so forth. Secondly, you should be familiar with how to solve, we'll say, one-step add and subtract equations, so similar to this problem that you see. If you'd like refreshers on either of these two topics, I will link refresher videos in the description below. Please go watch that before you start this lesson. All right, new lesson starts now. Here we go. So adjacent and vertical. On the left-hand side here, we have vertical angles, right? We said we need to be able to see any X shape as vertical angles. And we should remember that in vertical angles, they are congruent, they're equal, and the opposite sides. So if this side is 40, that means this side is also 40. It said find the value of Y, so the answer is just 40. Let's fix that 0. For this problem on the right, these are adjacent angles, okay? And adjacent angles are just right next to each other. And this red arc, this red part of the drawing that you see, just tells me that this angle plus this angle has to give me a total of 75 degrees. So let's put those words that we just said into an equation. It says t plus 45 has to equal 75. This corner plus this corner has to equal the full 75 degrees. This you might solve in your head. If you solve it algebraically, this is what it would look like. And no matter how you solve it, you should get t equals 30. 30 plus the 45 gives me the 75. All right, complementary and supplementary. For this problem on the left, remember that the red half square, if you see it in a drawing, just means that there's a right angle, there's a 90 degree. And what that tells me is that this angle plus this angle has to be 90 degrees. So V plus 34.8 has to equal 90. If we solve that, we get V equals 55.2. For this problem on the right, okay, supplementary angles, we need to be able to see that this is a flat line here. Flat lines are 180 degrees. The other way to look at this is to say that this angle, the 121, plus this angle, the n, is a half circle, which is also 180 degrees. So let me switch my pen here. That means that n plus 121 has to equal 180. And after you solve the equation, here's the work, you get n equals 59. All right, combined means that we're going to combine both vertical adjacent with complementary supplementary. So what I mean is, we're trying to find j. And if we notice, j is part of this x shape right here. So if I know what this is, I know by vertical angles, I know what j is. So how can I find what this corner is? Well, we notice that it has the red square here, or the red half square. So that means that this angle plus this angle has to be 90 degrees. So let's call this corner that we don't know, let's call it x. And then we just say x plus 40 equals 90. You solve, you get x equals 50. And now we just said a second ago that if we know this corner, then we know that j is the same, so j is therefore 50. So there I had to use complementary angles, right, and adjacent angles, 90 degrees, solve the equation, and then use vertical angles. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these 4 problems on your own, and when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. For the first problem, you should have realized that z just means add those two angles together, which gives you 69. For the second problem in the top right, you should have just gotten 29.2. And a quick note about this problem. There's a lot of lines, there's angles, there's a couple numbers. But again, always look for vertical angles. So when we look at these lines here, I know that this and h have to be the same number, so it's just 29.2. For the third problem, okay, these three angles form a flat line, form supplementary angles. So this plus this equals 180. When you solve it, you should get s equals 59. And for the last problem, you should have realized that r is, there's vertical angles going on here. So r is just 25 plus 41 equals 66. All right, that's it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.